I think they are potentially, and that's a huge word here, a 10-win team. I think they have 10-win talent. Now,
it is time for the Texas A&M Fighting Aggie preview show right here on the Stingray Show. And last year, through the midpoint of the season, the Texas A&M Aggies got up to number 3 in the country and had a trip to South Carolina, and then it all fell apart for them, losing to South Carolina as well as Auburn, and then losing to their rival Texas, ending the season with a record of 8-5. How will they do in year number 2 under Mike Elko in College Station? We will find out on this edition of the Stingray Show, as Olin Buchanan of TexAgs Radio is about to join us right now on the Stingray Show. And hey, you will also hear him momentarily in our open.
Hi, this is Tim Brando with a reminder. Those of you on Tide 100.9, look out. You're about to feel the buzz of Stingray.
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
I'm Heath Hopkins. I'm here in DeSoto County, Mississippi, right outside of Memphis, Tennessee. You know, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you feel that responsibility to pay it forward and give some kid a chance coming up in the ranks, kind of like Tony did for you?
Why do you think I'm talking to Stingray tonight?
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
No, I mean, look, no.
Heath, Stingray, here's the deal. When you get involved with Texas, it's like getting married to a stripper. and let me explain this. It looks good. It's kind of sexy on the surface. Yeah. But then you get the baggage, you get the drama, you get all that eventually comes with it. And that's what you get with Texas, and that's what the Big 12 learned.
And Heath, any thoughts on our show moving forward?
Hey, to everyone in Tuscaloosa listening here on Tide 100.9, with the Stingray Show, if you don't like it, you better learn to love it, because it's the best show going today, baby. Woo!
And with that, we want to welcome you inside the Texas A&M Aggie preview show right here on the Stingray Show. And like I said off the top, Texas A&M went 8-5 last year, and this is the second year for Mike Elko down at Texas A&M. And Heath, their non-conference schedule, they do go to Notre Dame in week number 3. And last year, they could have won that game if they would have had better quarterback play.
Whoa, Stephen. You know, you talk about Notre Dame. You know, I doubted Notre Dame all last season until the end. After they lost to Northern Illinois, I kind of wrote them off for the season. I doubted them all year until late, saw it. But here's the one thing that you mentioned there at the very top of the show, Stephen. This is only year 2. We've only had 1 year with Elko as head coach.
Yep.
They started red hot. And usually when teams start red hot, it's one of two things. Either they're playing over their heads because of new coach and new coach trying some things, taking a little bit more risk, and then, you know, go from there. Or you had a depth issue, and then when your depth gets challenged, that's when you start losing games. I think we might have saw that with A&M last year. I think it was more of a depth issue at key positions. So with that, this is year 2, the transfer portal. Stephen, let me check this real quick. See if this is breaking news. Texas A&M has money. There's oil money at Texas A&M. Okay, so they were able to go to the transfer portal and bring in some key pieces. So with that, year number 2, especially how they started off last year, I think they're really going to build it. The only question I got is Marcel Reed. I'm not completely sold. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I'm just not completely sold that he's a great quarterback. I think he's good. I just don't think he's great.
So Heath, let's go on ahead and dive into the Texas A&M Aggies, and who better to bring on than the guy who covers A&M on the beat there for the TexAgs, Olin Buchanan. And Olin, how are things going in College Station, Texas?
It's hot. Imagine that. August in Texas, it's hot. So it's very hot. But you know what? Those Aggies might be hot too.
There you go.
You know, maybe even Marcel Reed. we're seeing some good signs from him. A guy that wasn't supposed to play last year.
Yeah.
They spent the whole off season tailoring the offense for Connor Wigman, and then a combination of injuries first, and then quite frankly, substandard play second, thrust Marcel into the starting lineup as a redshirt freshman. And I think when you look at it overall, considering the circumstances, I think he actually had a pretty good showing of himself. But he has to get better.
Yes.
He has to get better. And to me, the first step that he has to take to be a better quarterback is just learning to read the defenses more effectively. And I think that just comes with experience. But as far as throwing the ball, he's fine. I'm not going to say he's, throws Joe Burrow.
Right.
But he's a very capable passer. And if you saw any of the LSU game, you know that he can really run.
Yes.
So he's absolutely a dual threat guy. Not the biggest young man in the world, but he can be a very explosive, exciting player.
Now, Olin, you said it's hot there in Texas, and I figured that social media and everybody would be hot on your trail because you were the guy. It had to be you, Olin, at SEC Media Day that switched the audio when Texas came on stage and played the Texas A&M fight song. They got to be hot on your trail. There's no doubt in my mind it was you.
I actually wish I could take credit for that. But I have to admit, I think it was just somebody at the SEC who's probably no longer employed there, just made a mistake. But I told you, you have it in your intro. I told you, it's just drama follows Texas.
Yes. So, Olin, briefly, if you would, like I talked about off the top, A&M was a playoff team, and then the wheels fell off towards the end of the season. Recap that for last year and why you think that happened.
Really the only loss that's inexplicable is losing at Auburn. If you were paying attention, you knew South Carolina was good, and you're playing, and I'm not trying to make excuses, you're supposed to win.
Right.
But you're playing South Carolina the week after that emotional win over LSU, and now you're going to South Carolina with all that, chicken crowing and everything going on out there, and great fan support among the Gamecocks faithful, and it's at night. And if you don't understand, and when you have all these guys in the transfer portal, maybe some of them don't get it, what it's like on a SEC venue at night, right?
Yes.
So I think they walked into a situation that they were not prepared for, and Lenora Sellers made them look silly, and took it. But that was just one night. Okay, that can be forgiven. And quite frankly, as much as it pains me to say, Texas was just better than you, and so you weren't going to win that game unless you made every play that was available for you to make. And I don't know that A&M made but one play that was available for them to make. So, but Auburn, you should have beaten Auburn. And you got down 21-0. You came back, got the lead, had the lead and the ball with about 4 minutes to go. And you kind of screwed that up and punted and left your situation. Anyway, so I think the biggest thing that happened to A&M, there's two things. Le'Veon Moss got hurt like in the first 5 minutes of the game against South Carolina at the end of a 20-yard game. And he's your best player, and all of a sudden, and the focus of your offense, and now you don't have him the rest of the year. Right. So everybody has injuries. Some are more devastating than others. That was pretty devastating. But the other thing is probably even more devastating is A&M secondary was kind of putrid, to be honest. Yeah. And they got away with it most of the year. I remember they're playing Missouri, and Missouri had it got wide open and for a touchdown. They just missed him. And then they did hit Luther Burden for a touchdown. There's a legal man downfield.
stuff like that. They're kind of getting off the hook with their lax pass defense. But you get into October, I'm sorry, November, where I always say A&M put the no in November. That A&M really struggled in zone defense. They had guys that just flat couldn't understand what they were supposed to do. And by then, these are all really good football coaches in the SEC. And by November, they're going to figure that out. And so I think that's one of the reasons that Auburn got out to such a big lead. So I think if A&M can stay healthy at key positions, and remember, they had lost the guy that was going to be their second option at running back, Reuben Owens, early in the year. So they were down to their number 3 running back when Le'Veon got hurt. So if you can stay healthy at the key positions and upgrade that secondary, which we believe they've done, I know Mike Elko feels like they have, then I think you would see a team that maybe can put some yes in November, even though it doesn't sound as good as no in November.
So, Olin, hold that thought. We are up against our first break here on the Texas A&M Preview Show, and when we come back, we are going to continue to dive into the Texas A&M Aggies. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show, and we will be right back. Welcome back inside the Stingray Show. Our guest this evening is Olin Buchanan of TexAgs Radio, as this is the Texas A&M Fighting Aggie Preview Show. And Olin, you were talking before the break about the defense and the pass defense being putrid. Let's start there. Let's talk about the defense coming into this season for the Aggies. What do you expect?
I expect them to be better against the pass because it's hard to be worse. So I do expect that. Look, first of all, there's that A&M defense is a huge question mark.
Right.
There are all kinds of reasons to doubt them, mainly from what you saw last year. Plus, they had 3 guys in the offensive line. In the defensive line that were taken in the draft. One in the first, one in the second, one in the third round. So you got to replace those guys. But here's the reasons to feel good about them. Mike Elko is going to take over the defense. He said after they blew a lead in the Las Vegas Bowl to USC and lost that game. He went and said, "Hey, we haven't been able to play zone all year. That's not the way we're going to play defense, and we're going to do everything possible to change that, play the style of defense that's expected here." So he started that with he's going to take over the defense. I don't know if you remember him as defense coordinator here, but A&M was never, in his 4 years here, was never worse than 32nd nationally in total defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was his first year. And then I think they got as high as number 9 in the country in total defense in 2020.
Right.
So he did a heck of a job. And I think everyone remembered him as being, an elite defensive coordinator. So he's going to take over calling those defensive signals. He's great about pulling up the blitz at the right time. You never know where it's coming from. But beyond that, he went out and got Jordan Shaw, safety / nickelback, whichever one you want to play him at from Washington. He got Julio Humphrey from Georgia, who had started some games at Georgia at corner. So now he's going to come and play corner here. They brought back, Will Leakey, who was an all-SEC corner. He decided to come back. I'm sure he got some financial incentive to do so. Tyreek Chappelle, who had been a starter for 3 years and they felt like was coming back, was their best cover guy. He got hurt early in the year and he was out for the year. I think he played 1, maybe 2 games. And so he's back. So there's reasons to think they're going to be better in the secondary. But, they've actually got to do it. Now, they also may or may not get help from a pass rush. Now, again, I told you, they lost 3 guys that were taken in the first 3 rounds of the draft.
Yeah.
The only deal is those 3 guys, they combined for 8.5 sacks. So it's not like, Myles Garrett was gone or Von Miller was gone, even though Shamar Stewart was a first-round draft choice. he had 1.5 sacks. Now, good player gets the run, and he got a lot of pressure that allowed somebody else to get it. But A&M only got to the quarterback 25 times and sacked him. Now, Mike Elko will tell you that they had their hands on the quarterback 26 other times
Right.
last year and didn't get the sack.
Mm.
So they feel like Cassius Howell, who only, he was a backup, but he still had 4.5 sacks, and he was their best defensive lineman in November. They're expecting big things from him this year. He led the MAC in sacks. He was the Sack-a-Mac. Sounds like a store.
Mac.
Uh,
Did you trade that, mark that?
no, but I should, or maybe it's Mac and Sacks, whatever it is. He led the Mac and Sacks in 2023. Now he has to step up in competition. They found that out last year, but they feel like he's ready to have that kind of year. And Rylan Kennedy's a guy that's that they keep talking about his potential. And then DJ Hicks was a 5-star interior lineman 2 years ago, and he showed flashes, but they're waiting for him to put it all together. So, again, reasons to think they may be okay there, but until you start seeing it on a consistent basis,
Right.
I think there has to be a certain amount of apprehension. But I think, I still think they're going to be better, if for no other reason that Mike Elko is going to be directing that defense.
Gotcha.
Olin, you mentioned there that the defense got that Elko said the defense got their hands on the quarterback 26 times. I mean, that's twice a game with a couple left over. So twice a game, this is happening throughout the SEC season, last football season, and they're not getting the quarterback down. Why does Elko think that is? I'm sure it's not a strength problem, but what is it? Just bad form? Is it just conditioning? I mean, what was his thoughts of them not getting those players down, or your thoughts?
I don't know. I just was like, it's funny because I remember it happening a lot. I think the first or second play of the South Carolina game,
Yeah.
they've got a beat on Lenora Sellers, and I think in that game, Elko was telling me, they told him all week, this is not your ordinary quarterback.
Right.
If you think you're just gonna throw him down, you're not. And I think they went in like, hey, we just beat LSU. Yeah, coach, we got it. And then they found out that Elko knew more than they did, right? And that was all game long. So they missed him on that. I think it's like the second or third play of the game, having dead and right for about an 8-yard loss. He shakes off the linebacker, completes a pass, and then they go down and score a touchdown. And that kind of set the tone for that game. But Quinn Ewers got away from one. It's going to be a sack, and Ewers is not going to be confused with Lenora Sellers physically, and yet he got away and turned it into a 20-yard gain, and they went down and scored on that drive, right? So A&M, and it was different guys both times, right? So I think it's I'm guessing as much as anything, get away from changing I hate to use the word kill shot, don't go in there trying with the idea like, hey, I want to blow up the quarterback. Just go in there with, hey, let's get him on the ground. And, maybe, I think they're trying to be more attentive to all that this year. It was a big factor in them and their season being not what it was or not what it could have been.
So, Olin, let's switch to the other side of the ball. You talked about it just a little bit of Marcel Reed. Where would you like for him to take the next step as a quarterback there at A&M?
Yeah, Marcel's good. He's a good quarterback. The question this year that's going to be answered is how good is he?
Right.
I think saying he's not great is fair. But how many guys are great quarterbacks their first year of playing, right? So there's a certain amount of grace you have to extend, I think, when a guy's playing, especially when he wasn't supposed to play. What Marcel, like I mentioned earlier, what Marcel has to do, the next giant step is being able to read the defense and figure out where to go with the ball. They're playing Texas, and I mentioned yeah, they weren't as good as Texas, and nobody takes advantage of all their opportunities in the game. But if A&M would have been able to take advantage of their opportunities, they could have won that game. And an example is, I think it was in the third quarter, Noah Thomas breaks wide open. I mean, so open. If you're watching on TV, Noah's the only guy on the screen, and Marcel didn't see him. You know, he just didn't see, and that's going to happen. And you know, there's some other time against Auburn late in the game when they were trying to get a touchdown, they could have nailed it down. And I think on 3 consecutive plays, they had a guy open, and on all 3 plays, Marcel didn't get it to the right guy, and they ended up kicking a field goal. But again, in my experience of covering football, it seems like the quarterbacks get better with that the more they play.
Yes.
And so we'll see if he makes that step. He can definitely run. You know, there's no doubt he can run. Ask the Florida Gators, and he can make a playoff schedule. You know, in Florida, he looks like he's going to run outside, and the defense starts converging on him, and he throws a 60-yard touchdown pass because nobody's there anymore. So he can make plays off schedule. He can run. Florida knows it. LSU knows it. And he can, you know, he's a good enough passer. I mean, I'm not, you know, no one's going to mistake him as a passer for, you know, he's no Manning, right? But yet, but he but he's accomplished enough, you know. I think with Marcel, it's all more of a mental thing, just learning the nuances of playing quarterback.
So, Olin, hold that thought. We were up against another break, and when we come back, we're going to dive into the running back position and the wide receivers. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show, and we will be right back on the Texas A&M Preview Show.
Welcome back, SEC fans. You're listening to the Stingray Show here on Tide 100.9, and today we're previewing Texas A&M and the Aggies in this 2025 season. And right before we went to break, we were talking about offense. We were talking about the quarterback. One quick question about Marcel Reed. The biggest thing that I've always noticed about quarterbacks, especially when freshmen get to play, is that every single college coach puts way too much on them their second year, and that's why we see the sophomore slump. They just throw everything at them, and it's a little too much instead of still kind of breaking them in. And they kind of take a step back, and then heaven forbid their ego gets hurt. And now they take another step back, and now they don't have any confidence, and now we're struggling to make it to a bowl game. With that, Olin, this is the second year for Marcel Reed playing quarterback. Do you think that A&M, how are they approaching this with him? Are they still trying to throw everything at him? Are they still trying to break him in? Is it one of those things? Because I haven't met a coach that didn't try to throw too much at a sophomore quarterback. Haven't met that coach yet.
Well, I guess we'll find that out when the season starts. I know that they're trying to tailor the offense more for what, you know, his skill set.
Okay.
To take more advantage of that. So I think you'll see more zone read, which if you watch him play LSU, he's really good at the zone read. And hopefully they're going to encourage him in passing plays to run if he has the opportunity. You know, if you see those layups, go ahead and take that 10-yard run and get down or run out of bounds. I think that, but I don't get the sense. And again, I'm not out there at practice the whole time because they run us out like they do everywhere else. I don't get the sense that they're putting too much on him. I think it was a really smart kid whose dad was. You know, his dad was a college football coach, the head coach at Tennessee State. He understands football. I think Mike Elko is a really smart guy and gets a grasp on what his guys can and can't do. And I don't think they'll try to ask him to do too much too soon. But that said, we really won't know until we see them actually playing, probably by the third game when they play Notre Dame. I will say this, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say he's going to be another quarterback like these guys, but think about the second year of Tim Tebow as the first year. I saw up close, because I was working in Austin, Vince Young, what he was as a freshman, as a redshirt freshman, he was playing just off of natural ability. The next year he had a pretty better grasp of it, and he got better. And then the next year he might have been the best season I've ever seen a quarterback have, until Joe Burrow.
Right.
So the point is, I expect him to to get better. And again, how much better, that'll depend on him. It'll depend on Elko. But I said it to begin with. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's proven that. The question is how good. Are you going to be pretty good, or are you going to be really good?
So, Olin, when we look at the running back position, it is Le'Veon Moss's running back room. Talk about that, and especially behind him, how that position looks.
Look, I know, I get it. Penn State has 2,000-yard rushers. Okay, they're probably considered the best running back room in the country. I get it, and there's others. I'm not saying A&M's the best in the country, but you know what? They're in the neighborhood.
Right.
They are very deep. Le'Veon Moss he missed basically a third of the season and was still named All SEC. He was on his way to 1,000-yard season, without a doubt. He has some explosiveness. He had a 75-yard run against Missouri, but more than anything else, he's just a tough physical runner. Usually a long run for him is 30 yards. He breaks a tackle at the line of scrimmage, gets ahead of steam, and gets hit further downfield and carries somebody another 5 to 10 yards, and that's a big play for Le'Veon.
Right.
But you don't see him stop for like 1 or 2 yards very often. It's usually 3 to 5 yards pretty consistently, and if you're not careful, he'll bounce off tacklers, and he does that pretty routinely. But Reuben Owens is the guy that's the big play threat.
Yeah.
And they were really excited about what he could do and what he was showing last year, and then he got hurt in August camp. And they didn't have him until the last 2 games of the year, and even then he wasn't 100%.
Right.
Amari Daniels came in and had a 52-yard run for a touchdown against South Carolina when A&M actually got back into it momentarily. And he played pretty well, but he's your third string guy. And Emmitt Smith's son has really shown improvement,
Mm-hmm.
and EJ. And but you know what? He may be down to 4th or 5th on the depth chart because they got a freshman. They got a freshman, Jamarian Morrow, that has really been turning heads. And now Morrow's probably not going to play a whole lot until next year. Because why? All the three guys I just mentioned before,
Right.
3 or 4 guys. So they're good and they're deep at running back, and on top of that, they've got a really good offensive line that's coming back 100% intact to run behind. So we talk about Marcel. One of the things that might make him a really good quarterback is that he's got a really good running game to help him out.
To follow that up real quick, is A&M going to take a committee approach to the season at running back where they're going to rotate and try to keep everyone fresh, or is it going to be one of those things where let's give it to Le'Veon Moss and just let him just dominate and just pound and run all over these guys, and then when he's getting 150, 200 yards, we'll get him out, let him take a break, and games in hand now, and we're going to rotate somebody else in there. Is that what
they're going to give him a break. And they did that last year, and they probably would have done it more if they had Reuben.
Okay.
But I think Le'Veon is just the guy that maybe he runs 2 series, and then a guy gets in for 1, and then he comes back and runs 2 series. I just think he's that good that unless Reuben Owens comes in and shows that he's also everything you think you'd be, I think Le'Veon's so proven that you got that stud horse, you better ride him.
So, Olin, when we talk about the outside and the wide receivers, talk about that position coming back this year for A&M.
Yeah. All right, let me get this out first. They would be better at receiver had Noah Thomas not transferred to Georgia. Right. They wanted Noah Thomas to stay, but he didn't. Okay, that's it. And Noah would make them better at receiver, no doubt about it. But they're still better at receiver than they were last year.
Right.
They brought in Kate, and they're tons faster. They just weren't very fast at the receiver position, not SEC speed, what you're used to. And so they brought in Casey Concepcion from North Carolina State 2 years ago. He had over 1,000 yards receiving as a true freshman up there. And I think they had a different quarterback, and their passing game suffered a little bit last year. But Elko had seen him, and he wanted him bad. And then, hey, you probably know this guy. Does the name Mario Craver ring a bell?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, hey, he had a touchdown against the Aggies last year at Mississippi State. And so they brought in Mario, and immediately with those two guys, they got significantly faster, needed it bad. And then they have a kid, Ashton Bethel Roman. Remember that name, Ashton Bethel Roman. All three of them. He's a I guess he probably didn't play. And he may be a redshirt freshman. Maybe he didn't play enough games but man, he's every after every practice, you're hearing Ashton Bethel Roman. You go out, we see him early, and you can tell he's a fast guy. So that, and then they have a young man named Terry Bussey. Now Terry was a 5-star recruit last year to play cornerback. And he's a quarterback at high school in a really small town in East Texas, population probably about 1,000. And his team won the state championship. He's a quarterback, do it all kind of guy, real fast, lot of great football instincts. And hey, they're going to play him at corner because A&M needed corners bad, right? We've been through that. Well, what do you know? They had injuries at receiver. And so I said, well, let's move him over to receiver. And he didn't have a great year. He'd never played receiver in his life. He had about 17 catches for 200 yards, had some long catches, but they were just bringing him along. And I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying, look, he's going to be Ryan Williams, right? But, I mean, he's a guy that's also fast and going to bring that extra speed on a consistent basis. A&M desperately needs a receiver who can take the top off the defense, get those safeties out of the box where they're waiting on Le'Veon Moss, make them have to step back a few more yards and have to actually respect the threat that they might get thrown over. And I think A&M now has the guys that can do that.
Olin, they need another Mike Evans. Does he have any eligibility left?
Boy, they wish, because he left early.
Right.
He only played 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Imagine if he and Manziel had stayed for 4 years, what kind of numbers they could have put up. They don't have another Mike Evans. They have a kid named Jerome Miles, who's a 5-star kid out of Utah, about 6'2", so he's about an inch shorter than Mike, and about 220. So he's got he kind of resembles Mike. I don't know if he's as mean and nasty as Mike, and I mean that in a very good way, because Mike was as tough as a rattlesnake.
Yeah.
But he's very athletic. He was hurt last year toward the end of his his senior year in high school, and hurt a knee, and he was able to come back for track. But of course, that's just running straight line with nobody trying to hit you and not having to change direction. So they're bringing him along very slowly to make sure that knee's going to be all right. But he's out there in practice, and I mean, he's the guy that could be one of those guys that you're like, who is that guy? Oh, yeah, because nobody knew Mike. He was coming in as a redshirt freshman. Nobody knew who he was. And then the next couple of years later, he's a first-round pick.
You talked in the years past, we've talked about Moose Muhammad, the second, third, fourth, fifth. Moose never really came about. He had that great first year and just kind of disappeared. Came out the second half of the season. He never came back. With that being said, the transfer portal, guys coming in, you already mentioned Mario Craver, the kid from NC State, the KC, I can't pronounce the last name. Concepcion.
Who's going to get a lot of receptions?
Hopefully so.
Give that offense a new dimension.
Right.
I might have already written this.
Oh, you did change the music. I know, and you've copyrighted Mac Sack too. You can't sneak anything past me now. I'm fully prepared. The guard's all the way up now. But with all of that, anybody out of the transfer portal that you're really looking forward to seeing on this offense?
Yeah, actually, I don't think he's going to go out and have 30 catches or anything. But have you ever heard the name? And I know you haven't. Nate Bokacher.
No.
He's a tight end. He had like 19 catches in 4 years at Nebraska. And yet he comes in here. I mean, good looking kid. Now A&M needs a little boost at tight end.
Yeah.
And has they keep telling you, hey, there's more to this guy than you know. And when we get out a little bit, again, we don't see him. Guy runs real well, has good hands, and I think, and he's a big dude that's going to definitely help them in the blocking. And that was a big issue with their tight ends last year. You might have heard that A&M had problems sometimes picking up 4th and 1, and in some of those instances, the tight end was the culprit. So again, I don't think he's going to go out and have some monster year like some great tight ends have had. But I think here's a guy, Nate Bokacher, that's going to come in and be a significant addition and will make them better.
So, Olin, hold that thought. We are up against our final break. And when we come back, we are going to navigate the schedule and get your prediction to see if A&M is going to do better and build off the 8-5 season from last year. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. We will finish up the A&M Aggie preview show right after this. Eating that apple, man. An apple a day will keep the doctor away.
Lord knows I hope so. Did I lie to you guys about Texas? Throwing all those bottles on the field last year and getting the easiest schedule that you could have hoped for. That wasn't just a coincidence, right?
No.
Actually, I got a question for Ola, but I'm going to wait till we're on here because I think it might be good radio.
All right.
Welcome back inside the Stingray Show. This is the Texas A&M Aggie preview show with Olin Buchanan of TexAgs Radio. And Olin, when you look at the schedule, the non-conference includes the Texas San Antonio, the Roadrunners. Then they've got Utah State and then at Notre Dame, which is a very tough game, which Notre Dame is coming in off of a bye week. And then they've got Sanford coming in before the Texas game. Talk about the non-conference schedule and then the schedule as a whole.
Okay, well, UTSA, you should win that game, but they're not one of those pushover programs. That's a pretty good program.
Yeah.
So, and they got one of those McCowns. The McCowns are like the poor man's Mannings. Yeah. Family of quarterbacks, Josh and Luke and all those guys. In fact, the oldest brother, Randy, was a quarterback here. So that's a good program, but you got to have to show up to play, or they'll come up and bite you. So I think I'll go out on a limb and I'll take A&M over Sanford and Son, and I'll take A&M over Utah State.
Right. And
the game, of course, everybody's going to be pointing to is Notre Dame. People forget that game was tied with 3 minutes to go last year, and that's with Connor Wigman having the worst day of his life. Now, Notre Dame, you got to give they're responsible for some of that, but some of it was just I never saw that coming, and so they would have. I think if Elko had done at Notre Dame what he did at LSU and changed quarterbacks, they might have pulled that one out, but they didn't. Okay, I think that game they're going to be an underdog. They should be an underdog.
Yeah.
And that defensive line is going to be challenged by what I heard some people say is going to be the best offensive line in the country at Notre Dame. Right. That said, I think A&M's offense is going to be explosive, and I think Notre Dame's got things that they got to prove on defense. So I think that's actually going to be a very competitive game, and I'll say this: I will not be surprised at all if A&M leaves South Bend with a victory. Now, again, they should be. I'm not calling it. I'm just telling you, I wouldn't be surprised. A&M's going to have a good football team.
Yes.
And A&M has things that they have to prove, and Notre Dame has things they have to prove. In fact, I know I'm getting off topic here, but you tell me what's the team in the nation that you say, okay, that's a slam dunk. They don't have any weaknesses or any questions. 3 years ago, you'd ask me on this date, I'd say Georgia's going to win it.
Right.
2 years ago, I said it's probably either Georgia or Michigan. And last year, I probably said Georgia or Ohio State. So you could point to a couple of teams and say, man, they're obviously better because they have this and this and this, and no doubt, you can say, all right, I'll say Texas. Texas is the number one team. Okay, but they're replacing 4 out of 5 starters in the offensive line, a first-round draft choice at wide receiver, and 3 really good interior defensive linemen that made a difference on that team, as well as some other guys in the secondary, and a tight end that was a big part of their defense. And I'm not just the point I'm trying to make is that Notre Dame, yeah, they're supposed to be really good. But last year, everybody told me how great a quarterback Riley Leonard was. So now you're not going to have him, and the next guy is just automatically going to be as good. I kept hearing how good Howard Cross was as a defensive lineman, or Jack Kaiser at linebacker, or Xavier Watts and Riley Mills. Well, none of those guys are there anymore.
Right.
So are they going to be good? Yeah, they're going to be good. Notre Dame's always, or typically, is going to be good, but are they going to be as good as the last guys?
Right.
And so that's why I say, yeah, Notre Dame's going to be good. A&M's going to be good. That's a good football team's going up there, and they're going to be an underdog, and it's going to be tough. It's supposed to be. If you didn't want it to be hard, don't schedule them.
Yes.
But they're not going to go up there thinking, okay, let's just try to keep it close and cover the spread. They're going out there, hoping to win and feeling like they got a chance, and I think they do. And that's not because I work at TexAgs. I would say that if I was working for Orange Bloods.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I'm going with this.
Okay.
You've mentioned other quarterbacks. You've mentioned things. You've mentioned Texas a couple of times. Did you happen to hear Steve Spurrier's quote earlier this summer?
Yeah, I heard it.
I wanted to get your take on it. He said, everyone's talking about how good Arch Manning is, and he's, they're going to win the national championship, and Arch Manning's going to be the top candidate for the Heisman. He goes, well, if Arch Manning was so good, why they let that Quinn Ewers guy play all the time last year?
I love Steve Spurrier because he says what everybody's thinking. Look, I think Arch Manning is going to be a very good quarterback, but I think it's unfair to Arch to say, okay, this guy's the Heisman Trophy favorite. Well, the best quarterback, the best player in the country, based on what? His last name?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because
what it is.
I'm not saying he's not good. They brought him in certain packages last year. He came against A&M and ran for a touchdown. But I saw that he didn't start, but played a lot against Georgia and didn't look good. Okay, Georgia can do that to a lot of guys, so that's not a knock on him. But then he played ULM and had a couple of interceptions, I think, against ULM, and then he played really well against Mississippi State in a start. So those are his 2 starts, ULM and Mississippi State. I don't know if y'all noticed this, but a lot of quarterbacks had big days against Mississippi State last year.
Yeah.
So that's not to say that Arch is overrated or anything. I'm just saying that I think it's unfair to him to say he's going to win the Heisman Trophy, or I think Feinbaum said he was the best player since Tim Tebow or something like that he's seen. And I'm like, let the kid actually do some things before you put these great expectations that he may not ever be able to live up to. That said, I want to say this. I really like the kid. I admire him because he's sat on the bench for 2 years. He doesn't have Manning. First of all, with that name, he could go anywhere and he could make some demands. And he could have said, after I sat on the bench as a freshman, but I don't need to do that. I can go anywhere in the country. And you don't think Tennessee would have been rolling out the red carpet to get him to go over there?
Right.
Or the orange carpet or whatever kind of carpet they have to get him there? He could have gone just about anywhere in the country and started right away last year, but he didn't have that kind of entitlement attitude. So I really admire about that for the kid. And you know what? If he played for anywhere else, I'd really root for him to have a big year. And I still hope he does well. That's how good a kid he is. He plays at Texas, and I'd like to see him have a good year. I hope his team sucks,
Right.
but I hope he has a good year.
Oh, let me throw this out at you real quick.
Okay.
If you give one word, top or bottom, do you think the Aggie offense is going to finish in the top half or the bottom half in the SEC this year?
Oh, top.
What
Top.
about the defense? Top half, bottom half?
I'd be very disingenuous if I didn't say bottom. They
Okay.
got a lot to prove.
Right.
Okay.
Now, top for the offense, I'm saying top 4.
Right.
Okay.
Top 4 or 5. Bottom would be 9 to. I'm
16.
saying, yeah. So I'm saying 9 to. They're coming in somewhere 9 to 12.
Okay.
So, Olin, going back to the schedule, how do you ultimately see A&M faring this year in 2025?
I think they are potentially, and that's a huge word here, a 10-win team. I think they have 10-win talent. Now, Florida says they're going to be a lot better, and Auburn says they're going to be a lot better, and even Mississippi State says they're going to be a lot better.
No.
Well, they say it, right? Everybody says they're going to be better this year. I'm saying about A&M, but I believe that on Florida, and I believe that on Auburn. So it's going to be tougher. But again, if you didn't want it to be difficult, don't leave the Big 12. So I think A&M is going to be a better football team than they were last year. They are not without their warts, but everybody has them. And I always like them at home.
Yes.
So I think 10 wins is not out of the realm of possibility. I think 9 wins makes more sense, but quite frankly, history is going to tell you, and maybe this is the first step that Elko has to take to lead this team where he wants to go. History is going to tell you they're going to lose a game that there's no way you think they're supposed to.
Right.
What game do you think that might be this year?
Arkansas up there.
Okay.
You're going to Arkansas, and even bad Arkansas teams come out and play their, can I say ass on there? Play their asses off against A&M. I mean, you go back and look at some of those. A&M beat them in the SEC 12 out of 13 times, and usually A&M has a much better team, and almost all of them come down. They go into overtime or come down to the last minute because Arkansas plays so hard against. I guess they play hard against everybody, but they really play hard against the Aggies. So that could be one of those. But I all that said, that until they get out of that 8-4 rut,
Yes.
you almost got to say they're going to finish 8-4. Now Elko may be the guy to get them out.
That's a good
Maybe
thing.
he's showing up with the crowbar and get them out. But they've been in that 8-4 rut for so long that you've got to. You can't just expect it. With LSU, everybody's going to pick them to win 9 games every year. Why? Because they do. I mean, yeah, Orgeron will go crazy one year and they'll go 7-6, but typically they're going to win 9 to 10 games. Georgia, Alabama, you knock down 10 wins because they do it. And A&M talent's never been the issue here. And I think talent's not the issue here this year either. There's just something that happens that keeps them from winning these games in November.
Yeah.
And until they break out of that rut, I think I'm going to just say, you can go 8-4 and take that to Vegas and expect to win some money.
Olin, I hate to bring this up, but I was talking with someone during the summer. Aggie baseball, #1 preseason team, does not even make the postseason.
Yeah.
Then basketball, You lose Buzz Williams. The worst thing that could happen to the Aggies is if A&M comes out and struggles to start the season. They have got to start off to a hot start for that fan base to give them something positive to look forward to.
That's true. They need that. They had a bunch of devastating injuries in baseball, bunch
Yes.
of them, and some of their best players were out. But all that said, had they beaten the worst team in the league
Yeah.
in the last series, Missouri, they would have been in the playoffs, and then
Yeah.
they got swept at home. That should have been unacceptable. I think the coach Mike Early is probably coaching for his job. I think there's a lot of excitement around Bucky McMillan coming here to coach basketball. I think it's going to be a more entertaining brand of basketball than we've seen under Buzz Williams. And
Right.
look, Buzz did some nice things here. Nobody really was. I think they said, "Okay, Buzz, enjoy College Park." But the football team, A&M needs to see something good right away. But good right away means winning your third game, because you're supposed to beat UTSA. You're supposed to beat Utah State. Now, what they need to do is go out and put 40 on UTSA and put 50 on Utah State and beat those teams like a good team beats those teams.
Yeah.
You know, when you go out and you got those teams that you're supposed to beat, and we beat them, 34-14. You're like, yeah, I don't feel good about that.
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
I mean, you need to go do the old Barry Switzer, hang a half 100 on them, because and let everybody knows that, yeah, if you're a great team, you look great against
Yes.
those teams, and so they need to do that. But even if they do that, that Notre Dame game can really set the tone for what's to come. Now, last year they lost to Notre Dame, and they were still 7-1 going into November. So, quite frankly, even if you beat Notre Dame, A&M has to prove it in November. What did
Yeah.
I say earlier? They've got to take the no out of November.
Yes.
Wow.
Olin, look, man, we have thoroughly enjoyed you joining us this evening. Hopefully, the A&M Aggies can get off to a hot start, and we would love to catch up with you during the season to get your take on the Aggies this season for college football.
Well, hopefully, when you do, I'll have something good to talk about.
Yes. And remember, what is your catchphrase?
And remember, America starts with A&M.
That
More
is
so
God
than
bless
ever.
America.
Olin, thank you. Gig 'em. Let's go.
Gig 'em. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Enjoyed it.
Thank you. Oh, I pulled down heat. I put down the wrong one. I do that quite often. I'm sorry, man.
You're all right, brother.
All right.
Oh, it's always fun to talk to. And we didn't ask you, but it's not Friday Night Lights, is it? It's what's the other one?
Varsity Blues.
Varsity Blues, yeah.
He's still here.
Yeah. Olin, what was the last Varsity Blues check you got since you were in the movie?
About $9.
Wow, we've gone down to 3 digits now.
Yeah, I always say the last one, no, it might have been up to 11. I always say, yeah, I got 4 figures. Of course, there's a decimal point.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Hey, do y'all ever hear from your viewers and they say, why do y'all put that crazy old guy on?
No, actually,
everybody actually loves you, dude.
Well, I wish my wife did.
And thank you. This has been a blast.
All right, I enjoyed it, guys.
All right, so Heath, that is going to wrap up the always entertaining Texas A&M Aggie preview show with Olin Buchanan. When we come back tomorrow evening, we're going to continue our SEC preview shows, and this one will be about the Gamecocks of South Carolina and how Shane Beamer is going to do this year with Lenora Sellers up there. So tune in tomorrow evening when we are back on at 6 p.m. for the South Carolina Gamecock preview show, and we will catch you then. Heath, how do you think A&M is going to do this season briefly, because we're running out of time?
9 wins. I won't be shocked if they get to 10, but I'm looking at 9. But I'm not going to be shocked if they beat Notre Dame early. I'm not going to be shocked at all.
Gig 'em. We'll find out.
Whoop.